This time, let me show tips in finalizing your research paper. How will you do it? Let's start with the first tip. Actually, there are many tips in this part. Tip number 1, proofreading. You read again and again your paper because there might be some errors. Here's my advice to you. Sometimes when we are the only one who's reading the paper, you could no longer see the errors. They say immunity, reading immunity. In my term, I say it, I'm telling my advisor, ma'am, kasukaon na kay ko, binasa sa ako ang paper. Then my advisor would say, so you have reached the maximum level of your proofreading. So how can that be helped? You can ask your advisor, you can ask your teacher, or you can ask someone, an editor, to proofread your study. Or another is, you could also use Grammarly to check, it's a software to edit your grammar and the rest. Second, formatting. I'll have a different session on this, hopefully next semester, or your research teacher can also show you this, because there are different formatting. Like, what's the margin? What's the line spacing? What's the, even if it's double spaced, but from the table to the text, it's different. From one part to another part, the spacing is different. And page numbering. Where will you write the page number? Diba? At the start of the chapter, there's no page number. But in the next page of the chapter, it must be placed in the top right corner. For some schools, they prefer it bottom right in our school. So bottom right. So I use their format. But if there's no specified format, APA format 7th edition says top right. And what else? How will I write my table? How will I write my graph? How will I label them? These are all in formatting. The next one, style. What will be the style to be used? Is it APA, MLA, or Chicago? I'll present it tomorrow in our referencing. The number 4, the time. You need ample time for revisions, okay? That's why in our class, in practical research 2, we end up with a proposal defense. The final proposal, I already asked the faculty members to have it next semester, because we need to have enough time in data gathering, enough time to write our paper. Then after writing your paper, there are some comments, you revise it, and you revise it, and you revise it. To tell you honestly, my paper, my dissertation paper, it went through 15 revisions. 9 revisions with my advisor, 3 revisions with an examiner and an editor, then another 3 last editions with my advisor. That much. So we keep on revising and revising. Like, sometimes you say, ma'am, nalapoy nakita na akong advisor, nalapoy duwang revise. Yes, it happens. So we need to be patient in doing our research papers. The next one, length. Not too long and not too short. Just enough. I don't place minimum or maximum words in the research paper. What I want is enough. If it's enough, then that's it. My research advisor told me before that my classmates asked me, why is it that my book is very thick? It's more than about 300 pages. And I told them, because that is how I define enough. I did realize that a month after I defended my study, there's another one in UP Los Baños, and his paper is 900 paged paper. And he said it's also how he defines enough. Now, here are some tips in revising your research paper. Am I freezing? I'm freezing here. Number 1, letter A, avoid information gaps. Again, what you will write there, it should be true. The facts and the opinions you write there are all genuine. Second, if proofreading with someone is it possible for you, you can ask someone to read your paper aloud and then listen, or ask someone to read your paper. Letter C, acknowledge sources. It is a respect towards intellectual property. So we acknowledge who wrote it, who said it, who stated that. Then the next one is logical progression of arguments. I think in your writing classes, you have this what we call transitory statements. How will this paragraph connect to the next paragraph? So there must be a transitory statement to bridge it. Then tips in editing your research paper. Number 1, check your grammar, spelling, punctuation, and typographical errors. You can do it. You can install. There is a free Grammarly. That's GR. Let me type in the chat box. Basig nyo ni ba kay Quillbolt? Automatic paraphrasing, ha? Here. Grammarly is offering us a free account. Last year, we have a school account on that, and it checks grammar, spelling, punctuation, typographical errors. Second, unclear statements. What does your statement mean? That must be clear. Then letter C, avoid unnecessary words and sentences. If you think that is just a flowery statement, delete it. We don't need it in a research class. Do it in your creative writing class. Letter D, beware of using sexist language. Like, for example, you say, old people, the old in research becomes a sexist or a biased language. How do you describe them? You say, people aged 60 and above. That is how we use better language in research. Or they say, the autistic child. How to make it soft? They say, the child with autism. It's different. Then, letter E, use appropriate words. How will you know it's appropriate? You check, who are your audience? Can my reader understand this? Then it's appropriate use. The next part is tips in proofreading, how to edit your research paper. I told you a while ago, number 1, reread, read and read and read until you've reached the maximum, kasagaon nga part. Letter B, documentations should be correct and present. If a group member is writing a section, team leader, I like to suggest to you to Google the reference and check if it's correct. Usually, the advisor's job includes to check if all your references are correct. Base biyog, okay, copy, pero lahi ang source. You just made it on your own. Letter C, avoid plagiarism. And letter D, make sure that you follow our format. Next, tips in preparing the final research paper or draft. Number 1, develop a title page. Number 2, make your paper neat and complete. Pages should be in order. Then meet with all the requirements for the final paper. Save your final draft. Common problem. Ma'am, na-delete akong file. Na-corrupt akong file. Please, let's hope I will not encounter that in this class. Let us make backup files. You know what? When I'm writing a paper, I'm saving it in my Google Drive, in my external, in my flash drive, and in my laptop. That save it in the desktop, save it in the drive. Then, letter F, keep all your notes and bibliography. If you have read something and you printed it, keep it. If you have downloaded it, keep it. If you have your data, whatever that will be, keep it. When will you discard it? Once you're done with your book, because there might be questions. Then letter G, put aside a copy of your final paper. Letter H, submit your paper on time. And letter I, congratulate yourself on a job well done. Let me tell you honestly, rewarding oneself after a big job is very important. Mine is a very big reward. I should tell you, I've been wishing for a piano, and I really told myself, oh, you do, Lil, you do your best, you do your best. Once you'll be done with your paper, you'll buy a piano. So my husband bought a piano before I gave my final defense, because you see, it's a reward to yourself for doing a great job in your research paper. It's a big one. And our target is not only a publication with MVCA, but let us see if we can apply for international publications with your work. And let us see if we can present in other research conferences. That will be our goal, okay? Then the last one, what's the parts of a research paper or article? Let me go over briefly. The first one, the title. What's in your title? We have the research, the focus of the research, the population, the target audience, their study design. When you write your title, be sure it is in the inverted triangle format. It means the longest one on top, the shortest one at the bottom. Next, abstract. I'll tell you more of this once you're done with your study, so you will know what to write in your abstract. But the formatting, it should be in a one paragraph, about 250 words, and there's the keywords at the bottom. Next, introduction. Now here, how will you write or how will you revise your introduction? We start with the problem. What's the problem all about? The problem is academic performance. Next, how do you see the problem in the global level? Or the problem is sleep quality. You start with that. Global level, the inverted triangle again. National level, then local level. Then after presenting the prevalence, it means the problem is really there. What is your solution to the problem? And what if this is a solution to the problem, what's your research gap? Like, this is the solution of the world. How is my solution different from that of the world? Let me give you an example in my study. I say, in the 2018 PISA, it's an international assessment for students. The international baseline of proficiency level is at level 2. And 76% of the students got level 2 or higher. Now, that is the global level. What's the problem? Among Filipino students, only 1 out of 5 attain that minimum level 2 proficiency. It means you can understand the problem. And there's something more than that. In the Philippines, more than half of the Filipino students, 54.4%, have math literacy below level 1. You know what that means? It means 54% of the Filipino students could not solve a problem after all, even if there are some hints and guides. That's the problem. What's the solution? Kennedy said that attitude towards math will increase motivation, will lead to active engagement in learning, and will yield higher achievement. But these 4 problems are also problems in mathematics education. What is the world solution? 1, flipped classroom, where it interchanges the delivery of content and homework. In the traditional classroom, lecture is done in the class, homework is done at home. But in the flipped classroom, lecture is done at home and classroom activities are for assessment and engagement. Now, this is the world solution. How is my solution different from the world solution? In this study, we explored a specific subvariant of flipped classroom. We call it team-based flipped classroom, where the whole class is divided into teams. They study the phase 1, the assignment together at home. And once they'll get into the classroom, we start with phase 2, the readiness assurance test individually and by team, and the phase 3, the team application exercise. So again, start with your problem. Next, prevalence of the problem in the global, national, and local levels. Then, what's the world solution? And how is your solution different from the world's? The next part is the RRL. How will you write your RRL? You go back to your research title. Example, sleep quality and academic performance. What's the first variable? Sleep quality. Define sleep quality and studies for sleep quality. What's the next variable? Academic performance. Define academic performance, studies that will support how to improve academic performance, studies to support what factors will not improve academic performance. Then the last, the relationship of sleep quality and academic performance. That's the third subtopic. And search on studies on how sleep quality is related to academic performance. Do not make too many variables. Just work on your research title. Ma'am, what if we have different components under sleep quality? Then you need to briefly describe each component and support each component in the sleep quality. Next, research methodology. We've done that last week. The next one, how will I present my methodology in a research presentation? I present my research design first, then the flow of my study in the data collection procedure, I made it into a diagram. So a diagram on the flow of the study together with my explanation. What else? The instruments. I have showed my different instruments with my Cronbach Alpha. The next part, results and discussion, conclusion, references. We're using the APA style, so we use references. If you use MLA, you say bibliography. So you say references. Then the appendices. What's in the appendices? A copy of your questionnaire, your letter, your emails, and everything that will support your study. Then the guidance, the best quantitative research paper. I'll no longer go over this one. We've tackled that one. But here's how you prepare for the oral presentation. The first, timing. If you say you're only given 10 minutes, record yourself. Practice first before you have a 10-minute time. Second, audience. Who will be the audience? Can they understand my words? If I'll say stock markets, stock analysis, can they understand it? Next, content. Just present the crucial part of your research. Do not do a copy-paste of all your research paper. Next, organization. The beginning, the middle, and the end of your talk must be on your research problem. How do we check on it? Go back to your statement of the problem. Next, the PowerPoint. The PowerPoint is not used for reading, okay? The PowerPoint is used for graphical and for some illustrations. So do not copy-paste everything in the PowerPoint. Next, tone. We use formal language in research. Do not say, oh, you guys can. No. Say to the panel members, to our respondents, to our participants, then dress neatly in your presentation. Then you also do practice. Practice and practice and practice. Especially, we'll be doing virtual proposal defense. Practice with your groupmate. Di ka pag-comment, ikaw na ba? No. You practice ahead of time. Then tips in making your PowerPoint for oral presentation. Number one, less is better. Less text is better, less flying lines, less colors, and no unnecessary sounds. They say you just keep with 2 or 3 font styles, 2 or 3 colors. That's how you make your PowerPoint presentation. Next, use a consistent and straightforward slide format. I shared to you a while ago my slides, right? That's how. Example, if it's a main slide, this is my design. If it's a body slide, here's my design. The next, make sure the font is easy to read. My PowerPoint this time will not pass. The minimum size should be 30. Then, the next one, emphasize keywords. If you notice in my PowerPoint, nag-isa-isa na ko ni siya. Because in the last one, present one bullet at a time. So do not flash it all like this one. If you want to focus on one, you could make transitions, animations, one paragraph at a time for one given data or for one key point. And you could emphasize keywords by changing the color, italicizing it, make it a bold face. Then minimize text. Lastly, present one bullet at a time to keep the audience focused. And also, use consistent slide transition. Just use one. No flashy transitions. But if you noticed, when I do presentation with a live audience, I only use one transition and zoom out for all. But in our Zoom sessions, I don't do it because I realize slides will be magdikit-dikit siya, so I don't use transitions. The last one, you need to make images, tables, graphs, charts, and videos in simple format. We're almost done with our research writing lecture. And I do hope you are prepared for your data gathering, for